Um, can someone unmute themselves and tell me if they see
I
my
can, we
screen?
can
We
see
can
it.
see it.
Okay, great. So this is the VPB Connect training. So some goals in this training is we're going to understand what VPB Connect is, who we're talking to, and why. We're going to understand how to log on and access VPB Connect, and we're going to understand how to make calls, record data, and end your shift. So the first question is, what is VPB Connect? It is a powerful voter contact tool to help us in Colorado for the end game. VPB Connect is a platform that we're using to make calls. You will see information about the voter you're calling and our script, make the calls, and answer the results as you go. Um, you can also use VPB on your computer using Safari or Chrome or on a browser on your phone. This chart right here shows you what devices work with it with the check and devices or applications that won't work with an X. So like if you have an Android, it will work on Chrome and Firefox. If you're on an iOS device, it will work on Safari. If you have a Linux device, it will be working on Chrome and Firefox. A Mac, you can use Chrome, Firefox, or Safari. And on a Windows application, you will be able to use Chrome, Firefox, or Edge Chromium. You will never use your actual phone number. Voters are going to see a campaign specific phone number on their caller ID, similar to Through Talk. With a normal VPB, you would have to use Google Voice. You do not have to do this with VPB Connect. So, who are we talking to? We have a very specific group of voters we need to reach in these final few days, actually. So likely supporters, voters we have already spoken with earlier this year who support us, voters who have their ballots, voters with phone numbers on file from voter registration or other means, voters who support us but haven't made a vote plan yet, and who we are talking to will evolve and change as we're getting closer to election day. Why is this important? Um, the first reason is we want to turn out in massive numbers because that's what's going to win this election. If we win by a landslide, Trump cannot say he narrowly won, right? We do not want that we don't want to lose this election by narrow margins. We want to win this election by massive amounts. So, the other reason why is we need to be sure every voter has a plan to vote and gets their ballot turned in because that's also extremely important, right? So, why we're using VPB Connect? The first reason is for effective voter contact. Everything we're doing revolves around voter contact, and VPB Connect is one of the most effective ways of reaching the most voters at this crucial time. Right now, the most important thing we can do as a campaign is to have conversations with voters. Voters who we talk to that have voted at a 47% higher rate than targets on the same lists who we haven't been able to talk to. Over 55% of the voters we have been trying to reach have already voted. And another good statistic, it usually takes contacting someone 12 times before they actually will go out and vote. So that is also why it's really important. Some people might be upset we're calling them 4 or 5 times. It usually takes 12 times before they actually go vote. Um, so this means two things. The number of people we need to call in order to motivate them to vote is far smaller than it was before, which means getting in touch with people who we have called 5+ times is imperative, again, because before they actually go vote, it usually takes them 12 times of us calling them, asking them to go vote. And VPB Connect is the best tool for this job because we can be more methodical in working through increasingly smaller lists of voters. Using VPB Connect is the best way to have all the conversations that we need. The second reason is reliability. Over 1 million volunteers made calls just last week across the country. With enthusiasm and participation only getting higher, that means a lot of people are using over the web dialer systems that have never handled that level of volume before. Yesterday at the phone bank at 4, we had all of the amazing volunteers. Some of you, I'm sure, were there yesterday. We went through an entire list on Through Talk, and we have never experienced that before. It's because, a lot of people are like you guys are stepping it up to a whole other level, and you're really helping us out in these crucial last days till the election. So again, that's why reliability is key. We're all used to the internet systems being overloaded during the pandemic, and dialer systems like ThruTalk and Hub Dialer are no different. We know that VPB Connect is the most reliable and consistent tool out there, which means we can limit disruption in the middle of shifts. Most importantly, this means that we will never stop being able to talk to voters. So, why we use VPB to connect to tie it all together, like in a nutshell, our number one goal is to make sure that we're using the right tool for the job. Sometimes that means Hub Dialer, sometimes that means Through Talk, and now more often than ever, it's going to mean using VPB Connect. Because we've been able to increase turnout here in Colorado at such a high level, our goal is to reach the folks who haven't been answering our calls. VPB Connect is the best tool we have at our disposal to increase these vital voter contacts. So this is going to be when you're going through your list and someone says, I can't talk right now, and you would mark not home. These are the people we're calling again right now. VPB Connect is also reliable, and that means fewer disruptions to the volunteer experience while eliminating the risk of system failure that prevents us from talking to voters for hours at a time. So logging on, it is quick and easy. It's actually, I would argue, easier than Through Talk for many reasons, because one, it works on Safari, and two, there's about only 2 login screens versus 4, so that also makes it pretty easy. So we're going to put the link, and you're going to click get started. If you already have an action ID, the action ID is for anybody that has used a VPB before. If all you've used is Through Talk, this is going to apply to you. If you already have an action ID account, you're going to put in that email address and password. Like I said, you need to select create an action ID account, and then you need to fill out the required fields, which is your email address, and then you create a password. If necessary, you can reset your password by just selecting forgot password on this login page. So this is what you're going to see. If you've already done a VPB, you're going to click login. If this is your first time using VPB Connect or a VPB in general, click that create an action ID account, and this is what the screen's going to show up as. If prompted, enter the zip code so you can make calls to people in your community. If you're using your computer, a pop-up will appear asking you to enable your microphone. It will look like this. You want to make sure you hit allow, because the voters you call are going to be able to hear your voice. That's another thing that's different than Through Talk. We do not get to use our phones. We're using our computer. And you guys might be asking, well, what if you're talking on the Zoom? I'm going to be able to hear you while I'm talking to voters. Actually, we just learned a special new trick for this. So just hang tight, and I'm going to show you how to disconnect your audio from Zoom. But that's in a couple more slides. So making calls is also intuitive, and it's really easy to get started, especially because you all are pros on Through Talk. Once you enter VPB Connect, you're going to notice the first voter's name. And the phone number is going to be near the top of the page, right here. Instead of being on the left like on Through Talk, it's going to be right under the voter's name. Along the left column, you're going to see any additional information provided about the voter: their cell phone, party affiliation, precinct, voting city, and preferred phone number. Hit the call button when you're ready to begin calling the voter. You will hear a ring and wait for the voter to answer. If there are multiple voters we need to reach in the same household, you're going to ask for each person and record your answer from your conversation with each voter by clicking on their name in the top right corner. So like you can see here on this screen, we have Israel Dine, and then it also says also in household is Josephine Hansen. So recording data, our campaign is data driven, so we need accurate data and we need a lot of it. This is one of the most important steps when you're phone banking. Recording accurate data allows the campaign to keep track of how voters respond to the questions provided in the script. VPBconnect allows data to be recorded whether or not voters answer your call. So you're going to begin the script and complete all of the listed questions by marking the results as appropriate, as with ThruTalk. But instead of slides with VPBconnect, they are drop-down menus. So it'll always say choose an option, and then you'll just click the best response. Based on what you select, the next part of the script is going to appear on your screen. Continue talking to the voter and selecting their responses until you see script complete right here. And like as I already said, the script is going to change based on what you answer. So if they're supporting Joe, you'll continue with the script. If they're supporting Trump, you're going to immediately end the conversation, as you do if you were using ThruTalk, because we really do not need to be engaging with them. If you're unable to reach the voter, just select the I couldn't reach Israel or whatever their name is at the top of the virtual phone bank in red. A drop down list is going to appear, and then it will list the possible options of why that voter could not be contacted. If they're not home, you click not home. If they refuse to talk to you, it's refused. If they've died, you're going to click deceased. If they no longer live there, it's moved. We're not using callback. We're not using busy. We're not leaving messages. They might tell you that you have a wrong number or the number might be disconnected. So this is just, it's blown up a little bit bigger so you guys can see it. These are the responses if you couldn't reach the voter. Not home is the most common response you're going to use when you're phone banking. This indicates that the call either went to voicemail or the person who you called was not the person you're trying to reach. Refused should be used carefully. It's also known as the opt-out. It removes the voter from our contact list permanently. Only select this option if voters specifically request to be removed from the call list. It's also very important to verify you're speaking with the correct person before completing a refuse request. In other words, relatives or friends of the voter cannot request that they be removed. If Israel says remove me from your list, go ahead and remove him. But if his sister or if his wife or if his cousin says remove him, you can't. You just mark that as not home. You do not remove someone unless they specifically ask you to, the voter. Now, deceased, this response indicates, of course, that the voter has passed away. Moved, the response indicates that the voter is no longer at the address associated with the provided phone number. This happens a lot with younger voters who are living with their parents on their first election, and sometimes they move to an apartment for the second time around or third. So that's when you would use moved. Callback, it indicates the voter has asked to be called back at a different time. We're not going to use callback. We're just going to go ahead and use not home because we will call them back again anyways. Busy, this response indicates that you've received a busy signal when dialing a voter. Again, ignore busy. We're going to use disconnected. Left message, we're not leaving messages, but if we were, you would be using a voicemail. Wrong number, the phone number provided does not reach the correct voter and they tell you you have the wrong number. And disconnected indicates the phone number provided produces a disconnected not in service message. So continuing with calls and finishing, you will make calls for a period of time and talk to a lot of voters and then wrap up. So after you enter the call results of your call, select save and next call at the top of the screen to move on to the next voter. When you're done for the day, just select stop making calls at the bottom of.
I have a question. If
Yeah, go
somebody hangs up on you, do you put in not home?
Um, if someone hangs up on you after you say you're with the campaign, mark that as refused because
Refused. Okay.
yeah, they don't want to talk to us or anybody resulting with Colorado Democrats. That would count as a refused. Um, Not home would be like I'm driving right now, I can't talk right now, I'm eating dinner, sort of thing.
Okay. Got
Yeah.
it. Thank you.
No problem. So now we're going to review our Congressional District 3 script, and this is associated with Diane Mitch Bush. For those of you in El Paso County, the person on your ballot should have been Jillian Freeland. So we're just in a different region right now, so don't worry about it. This is for Diane Mitch Bush. Um, So you're going to ask them whether or not they've supported Diane. And, there's different scripts based on how they respond. And then you can also ask them to be voting for Joe. And also John Hickenlooper. And again, the script is going to change based on the response button that you click. And then you want to make sure you have a voting plan with them. If they haven't already voted, ask them how they're voting. It's going to be, oh, this vote by mail does not exist anymore. The deadline was October 26th. So the only way people can vote now is by Dropbox or in person. Some people will ask, when are Dropboxes open? 24/7. They don't close. And usually the ballot boxes are emptied at least once a day. Another thing people might ask is when's the latest I can return my ballot? On a Dropbox, you can return it on by November 3rd, sorry, election day, which is November 3rd at 6:59 and 59 seconds. They will literally stand there, and if you're a second later, they won't take it. So you really want to encourage the voter to drop it off in a Dropbox as soon as they possibly can. And then you're going to want to work out a date with them. So we have detailed plans to vote with them. We want to make sure, okay, you're going to drop off your ballot. Do you want to drop it off this weekend or, tomorrow or Monday, right? But there are only 5 days left till the election's over. So you just pick the closest date to today that you can find with the voter as possible. And then all the dates are here. Most of these are gone. There's still the 30th, November 2nd, November 1st, and election day. Oh yeah, and of course this weekend, which would be 30th and 31st. And then this is our hard ask. Again, it's called that because we're not being rude, we're just being direct. And there are, like I said, only 5 days left till this election ends, but things are just getting more crazy, not less crazy. So we always need volunteers. This is what you're going to ask them. Can I count on you to volunteer with us by making phone calls from home? There's yes, maybe, or no. Ignore the later September. And we're already in GOTV. So I would honestly just use yes, maybe, or no. And then you're going to want to ask them to vote triple. That's what we're calling this. When we're asking a voter to remind 3 friends to vote, that is referred to as vote tripling. If they say the names of 3 friends, you can put it in this box. Sometimes what I do is just they'll say, oh, I've told all my friends. I type that in there. Or they say, well, yes, I'll remind them. I just put will remind 3 friends because they don't always share those names with you, but that's okay. So this is the part where everybody needs to make sure that they're paying attention. This is different than what you're able to do with Through Talk. How you can disable Zoom audio for an open VPB. So what you're going to do is go to the bottom left hand of the screen and select Leave Computer Audio. Where your mute button is, there's a little caret. that points up. That's what you're going to use, and click on leave computer audio. Raise hand function on Zoom. There is a two-step process to raise your hand. Example of that is going to look like this. You're going to click on the participants tab in the lower toolbar. It's going to be next to your stop video. From this tab, click on the raise hand button on the bottom right, and then your hand should be raised. You'll see like a little blue hand next to your name. And then from there, check the chat and we will reach out to you. Another way you can do it without raising your hand, just type a question in the chat. Because there are usually a lot of us on these calls, we'll answer your question as quickly as possible. So feel free to just use the chat freely and frequently if you'd like, for any questions you have. So some tips for using VPBconnect. You want to confirm you're using the correct browser for VPBconnect. Remember to always keep a positive attitude. Voters can hear your positivity through the phone. Confirm you've reached the correct voter when you first speak to them. Don't be afraid to tell a voter, I don't know, in response to their question. So like if they ask you some bizarre question about, I don't know, absentee ballots, you're going to be like, to be honest with you, I don't know, but I can, point you to a resource that might help you. And what I can do, or Jake or Gabby can also do, there are like 3 good websites that you should definitely write down or have with you as you're talking to voters. The first one is iwillvote.com. It's really great for those people who've waited till literally last minute to register. They can do it there. Also, they can go to the Secretary of State's website to find the nearest drop box location. Another thing you're going to want to make sure you have on hand to be available to tell people, ballot boxes are always open and they are emptied daily. And the other thing is, it's too late to mail your ballot. So those are like 4 really important things you need to make sure that you have on hand to tell these voters. Also, mark the results of every conversation before moving on to your next call, as always, and use key components of the script but have a real conversation. If you feel like you're going to sound like a robot following the script exactly, to be honest, I've never done that. Most volunteers just include the key parts and just make it their own because you want to sound real, because we're real volunteers, right? So just, make it personal. Make sure you connect with the voter. You guys will have really good conversations. So now we've reached Q&A. If you have any questions, you can type them in the chat.